Mm, 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 mm. Hello, JP.
Oh, who's
Can
that
you
thing?
hear? You can hear me?
Is that Brendan Mann?
This is yes. Just trying
Hey,
to figure out my video here.
okay. I'm just gonna pop you on mute, Brendan. If you need something there, Brendan, sorry. There you go. Welcome, man.
Sweet.
Yaron, good to see you, man. It's been a long time. All right, everybody's rolling in now. Joey Lundgren, welcome. Darren, welcome. Emmerich, welcome. Christina Cooper, welcome. Steven Sagnato, welcome. Mark Silverman, Brendan Mann, welcome, guys. Yaron Engler, so good to see you, man. It's been ages. Jennifer Halterman. Alex Hayden, welcome. Oh, Munch Munch. Good. Ted Black, oh, I'm so happy you're here, my friend. Thank you for being here. Erica Howard, welcome. Kate S., welcome. And Janet, welcome. Hey, Teresa Campbell, good to see you. Welcome. Welcome, Mandy Marshall. Welcome, David Bird. Welcome, Martin, your name's cut off. Martin Weldon, there you are. Hey, Charles, welcome. Wow, Claudio, good to see you. Welcome, thanks for being here. Rachel, welcome. Alan, welcome. Look at this. Everybody's loading in. This is awesome. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm always happy to be here when I'm on a call, but I'm happy to just be hanging out with coaches. Imagine you're all coaches. Amy, good to see you. Welcome. Because I don't really differentiate in my work anymore, whether I'm working with a coach or somebody who's not a coach. It's just like people. I just work with people. But coaches are, of course, my people, because I'm a coach. And so here we are. I'm excited to be with a bunch of coaches. Love you guys. And I'm going to turn off these dings because every time somebody wonderful joins, I get a little ding. Excuse me 1 second. There we go. So I'm going to just start sharing. I'm going to share what I plan to share. And then I'm going to share some things I didn't plan to share that just came up for me this morning when I was reading through the questions that came in. Anna Reynolds, good to see you. Welcome. Happy that you're here. And then I'm going to, hopefully there'll be some time to actually be in live conversation. Fitz, welcome. Awesome. Oh, God, thanks. Good. I'm so glad you're here. Reno, Jesus, everybody's here. Ryan, oh, fuck, this is a party. I'm so happy that you guys are all here. Whew. All right, we'll see. Let me just dive right in. Enough welcomes. If you come after this, I'm welcoming you in my mind, in my heart. Okay. There's 3 things that I said I was going to share in the post that I made about this. They are how coaches will save the world, and I mean that very literally and seriously. How to create certainty in times of uncertainty, and it is not by holding on to something else in the world that is hopefully safe, because that last thing we hold on to, called being able to leave our house, wasn't. And the third thing is how to continue growing your business during this pandemic and doing so without taking advantage of people. And why it's actually selfish of you to not do that. That's just an opinion, it's a perspective, as all the things that will be coming out of my mouth are. For those who don't know me, I have no truth to sell. I have a perspective. I might experience it as truth, but I'm not saying it is the truth. So everything that comes out of my mouth in this call today is a perspective. It's a possibility. Try it on, look at the world through it and see how it feels and what it gives you access to. That's what I'm interested in for you. If you're not on mute, please mute yourself, because background sound will be distracting to everybody other than you. All right. Coaches will save the world. There's a guy named, would be useful for me to remember his name. His name is, oh well, I'll remember it, post it later. But he's a professor at Harvard, and he has a psychological developmental model, and he does this great talk in London that I saw, and he was talking about basically the development of the psychology of an individual to a point from being a social version of themselves, like I am, society, and how society sees me, and you start to become conscious, and you then author your own self, and Robert Keegan is his name, and you author your own self, and then beyond that, once you are able to author yourself, you develop the psychological capacity to transcend that whole idea of authorship, and you can author and create multiple selves depending on the moment to give you more access to freedom and power to create in the world. But what was stood out for me in his talk is he said the people that are helping other people to do this are the ones carrying the torch of the evolution of humanity. And that's coaches, therapists, psychologists, coaches, people who study wisdom, ancient wisdom, modern wisdom, and they can develop themselves in certain ways and help other people to grow and develop in those ways. And so that's coaches. That's what we do. That's our work. And we do it in all different ways, different flavors, but that's the essence of our work, is to help people to evolve and grow themselves. You don't stop growing up just when your height stops growing, you keep growing. So that's our work. And so why is that super important right now? Because people, of course the virus sucks. Like if you get it, there's people on this call that have the virus. I know that for a fact because I know some of you, right? And it's not fun. It doesn't feel good. It's scary. What might it lead to? Of course we don't want that. But for every person that has the actual virus, so many people have the virus in their mind, the fear, the idea of it. And that's having an impact on our world right now. And so how can we help as coaches? We can help them to be free from that fear, if not free from the actual virus by, helping them to not impact their immune system and but just actually free from the fear version of the virus, the idea of virus, free from the fear of the shifting of circumstances. Right? Like everything's different in their world. But what does a coach do? It comes into a person's world where they're not empowered because of the way things are out there, and they help them to find power and certainty. That's our job. So it's like, I think this is the best, it's a great metaphor, I think. I think it's accurate that like this is a fire and we're firefighters, or you're a lifeguard and you're sitting around and then suddenly there's somebody in the pool drowning. It's like, shit, time to work. And so I've got so much energy right now, not because I'm like, ooh, I'm going to make a bunch of money. It's not about that. I don't want to capitalize on this. It's because, wow, there's so many people that are suddenly in the position where what I do could be really useful to them. And what I do as a coach is to help people to create despite circumstances. And so all of a sudden circumstances seem like a problem right now. And I'm not saying they're not, but I'm saying they both aren't and are at the same time. This is where the creating perspective comes in. It's not like it's wrong, it's that there's more than one way to see it. And so this is why I think it's important for coaches to step up and to really lead the charge on people being relaxed and free. Every single one of you that's on this call is a lever for relaxation and peace and productivity in the world. Your conversations with people are going to make a difference in their lives and in their businesses, and that will ripple out. I had a client, I mentioned it in the stuff that I wrote. He was on a call. I did this for just my clients last week that are coaches. And one of the other guys who wasn't a coach was like, listen guys, in 2008 when the market crashed, I was I don't know if we use that language, but his story was basically, I was fucked. And if I didn't have a coach, I wouldn't have made it. And it was like, whoa, I think we got what he meant when he said that. And the coach was instrumental in him getting through it. And he said, listen guys, we need you right now. And so me being present to his is like, well, yeah, we need you right now, meaning we need us right now. So I want everybody to really get that it's not just about us and surviving this, that actually we have a job to do. It's like, we're the firefighters, you're the lifeguards. It's our time to make a difference, not just for us, not just the people around us, but for the world. Every action you take to help people find certainty, to be relaxed right now, will ripple. It will ripple quickly. So feel the purpose in that and get excited about it. That's connecting with the love that's of the same, there's love and fear in all of this. That's the love side of it, in my experience. So the other thing that I said I wanted to share is how to create certainty in times of uncertainty. So we go about our lives and the certainty is in like the money comes from this particular client, or I have this particular work, or, I go to this store and that's where I buy my canned food and now there's not, and just things are shifted. It's like, whoa, now I'm uncertain because things out there is where I found my certainty suddenly tripped me up and now I'm not safe anymore. And so what can I hold on to that gives me a sense of certainty? And that's not wrong. It's not bad to do that, but just see that when you do that, it's not as certain as you think it is because suddenly it's gone, right? And so it's not to say therefore you should never have certainty in things, but having the perspective that having all of my certainty in what's happening out there maybe isn't the best plan. And so how else? So we say you want to live in uncertainty. And I love that idea, live in the not knowing, live in uncertainty. And there's a certain value and bliss in that as well. But two things. Number one, we're human and we actually, our body and its neurological experience is connected to the idea of certainty and continuity. So there's only a certain degree to which we can access the total bliss in uncertainty at all times, unless you're just going to live in that complete state of enlightenment all the time. I'm not knocking that. If you got that, own it. Good, cool. But for everybody else who is actually still connected to the ground and living in a body and being honest with their internal experience, and there's still some value in certainty, like it's okay to want certainty too. The other thing that I would say is a lot of people get certainty in being okay with uncertainty. And that's not just some way of playing with language. There's a way of accessing certainty in knowing that not knowing what's going to happen is okay. So the two things are not really separate. Right? Knowing that you are rolling with it, you know, going traveling and going on an adventure. It's like I'm certain there's going to be uncertainty, and that's what has me feel safe and joyful. So these two things are not really opposites. They kind of dance together, but that's a kind of that's a deeper insight that takes time to reflect on. I want to give you a quicker access to some relief and certainty right now by pointing to a place that you can create certainty. Everything here is for you and for your clients. Which to me, that's just how coaching works. I create me and then I bring that out and I help my clients to create the same thing. So hear it in both ways. But for you to create certainty right now is not to look at what's out there is not changing that I can hold on to. It's to look at who am I? Who am I? That, like, circumstances aren't going to change that. I was loving awareness and loving kindness before the lockdown. I was possibility. I created as I spoke. I saw myself as somebody who takes immediate action. I saw myself as somebody who lives by asking and listening. Then the lockdown happened and I'm still that. I haven't changed. The circumstances have changed. And that means that this person who was that and still is that is going to meet those things, and new things are going to happen. New actions are going to come out. But if I'm looking for certainty in circumstances, I'm uncomfortable. If I'm like, I know who I am. And what's fun and exciting is that I and who I am is going to be consistent and it's going to be the same. And that means, and I'm going to take that into new environments. I'm going to take it into my home with my wife and my son, whether they're happy or he's screaming. I'm going to take it to this call where the coaches are like excited or freaked out. I'm going to take it to this conversation that I'm having later with a person that's on the fence with doing coaching with me. And I'm just going to be that. I'm going to take it to the grocery store. I'm going to take it to my wife when she's on her way to the grocery store and telling her, no, you're going to come home. It's just like, why am I doing that? Because I know who I am. And so when we shift our focus from what's happening outside to who we are, we find a place that we can have certainty that doesn't change. Doesn't change with the wind, doesn't change with the economy, doesn't change when there's a pandemic. And that doesn't mean that that stuff's not important. It is. But where we focus on is what gives us our sense of certainty. And when you know who you are, and you can be certain that that will continue, then you actually access an ability to meet circumstances that are unknowable and circumstances that are changing with more relaxedness and calm. Because it's not about, I don't know why, actually. I don't know why. Maybe I'll figure it out, or maybe I know, but I can't access it right now. But what I know is that when I focus on who I am and the continuity of that, I just feel safer no matter what's happening. The certainty is around that. It's like, let's make a simple example. If I know that I'm a loving person and I don't get angry and I don't want to get into a fist fight or an altercation, and I can reference that because there was a time when I was younger that was different, right? Then I know that I can go into a situation with a man who's angry and I don't have to be worried about getting into a fight with that person because I know who I am. But back in the day when I either didn't know who I was or thought that I was somebody that has to get into an aggressive situation, I would be afraid going into that situation with a man who's angry because I thought, oh, maybe this is going to escalate into something. It's not going to be that because I know who I am. It's just not going to go there. That's not the conversation I'm going to have. And so when I go into a conversation with somebody about coaching, if I have the idea, the circumstances and the economy and the pandemic and all these things are determining whether or not somebody hires me for coaching, then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hold on, I got to be safe. But if instead I'm like, well, what's the same is that I'm a person who can have conversations with people that can help them to see things, that can help them to create more in their life that is valuable to people. I was that, I still am that, and I'm going to be that with this person. It's just, what am I looking at? Am I looking at what was the same, or am I looking at what's changed? I'm just going to look at what's the same. We're going to get into a subtlety around that because you can do that in a way that really undermines your power and is irresponsible, or you can do it in a way that's loving and creative. But I'll come to it through what I have to share around some of the questions you guys asked. So going on to the last piece, how to continue growing your business during the pandemic without taking advantage of anyone, and why it's actually selfish not to. So let me flesh out what I mean about taking advantage of people. And that's just, again, my perspective. And that would be like making some kind of shift in what you do and how you do it in a superficial way just to get people because they're afraid. Like for me, coaching the coronavirus is not like from that place, but I could have done the same thing from fear, where it's like, oh, people are scared of the coronavirus. So it's like how to like make a bunch of money as a coach off the coronavirus. That's different than people are scared of the coronavirus right now and you're coaches and it's important for you to make a difference in the world. This is your work. Let's work together. Let's have this conversation. So it's not the words, it's not what you're doing out there, it's why you're doing it. And so are you coming from a place where it's like, I want to try to get, like, are you trying to sell toilet paper at 10 times the price? Are you price gouging, right? Or are you doing something just from that, like that fear, or that seeing that you can actually take an opportunity on other people's fear? That's what I mean when I say taking advantage of people. I don't want to do that. I would love it if other people didn't do that. I doubt that anybody here is thinking about doing that, but I just want to make it clear that's what I meant. And so is that like a contradiction to growing your business then? No, to me, I'm growing my business because I was growing my business and I was that person and I still am. So it's like, I'm who I am as I grow. I'm creation creating itself constantly. That's what I am. It's like, I haven't changed. So like the tree, there's a tree in my backyard, a palm tree, and it grows and there's like things on it that fall off. It didn't stop because there was the pandemic. So I'm like, oh, we got to stop the growing. There's a virus. No, you keep growing. And so my personal opinion that it's selfish not to is because what I see occurring right now in the world is the economy is like all these different like channels for water flowing through, or gears in this machine turning, and some of them are closing up and some of them are stopping. And the more that close up and the more that stop, the less motion there is, the less flow there is. And so so some of them are doing it because it's actually responsible, because if some people continue doing their work, then they create the possibility for the transmission of the virus. So it's like if you work in a restaurant, you're not doing that work because that contributes to the virus. But if you're here on a Zoom call and you coach virtually, that's not actually an obstacle. So to stop the flow of currency through the economic system, to stop the flow to stop the wheels from turning in this situation would be because you're afraid, not because you're actually contributing out, to the virus spread. So my personal opinion is don't stop the economic flow. Don't contribute to the fear that says we need to stop and slow down. We don't need to stop and slow down creating and serving and making a difference in the world. We just need to stop doing it in such a way for a period of time that encourages the transmission or support the transmission of the biological virus. Paradoxically, if I stop my work as a virtual coach that doesn't have any potential to transmit the virus, then I'm actually speeding up the spread of the fear version of the virus by saying we should all just do nothing. So don't stop. And if growing is who you are and what you do, then keep doing that because that's what you are. And that doesn't mean you have to take advantage. We're going to get into the nuances of it through some of your great questions today. Okay, so let me dive into those. How are we doing on time? Sometimes I think it's 2 minutes is better an hour. Okay, good. So you guys, a lot of you sent me emails. Thank you so much for those live here and listening to the recording. I'm not going to share the names of who the emails are from. I'm going to read bits, but I'm not going to say anything that's, your confidentiality would be preserved, just letting you know that up front. So let's see, I'm going to start with this one. How do you see this affecting higher ticket enrollment? I've heard a couple marketers, capitalized, say that fees are going to have to come down because many folks are scared shitless of parting with money right now. Also, how are you positioning yourself during this time versus just a few months ago to prospective clients? All right. So I read all of the emails that came in multiple times. And when I'm reading them multiple times, I'm doing a couple things. I'm reading it to get into the feeling, like if an actor would read lines over and over again to actually become that person. So I'm reading them over and over again to become that person. And I'm also reading them to access the language and the reality that this person is living in, that's evidenced in their language. And so it doesn't mean that I got it, but I'm creating this caricature of this person for myself, and then I'm coaching that version. So I'm not coaching you because I'm not with you, but I'm coaching my experience and idea of you that I've accessed through what you've written me. So that's the best that I can do in this environment. So the first thing that I saw is, how do you see this affecting high ticket enrollment? I used to want to be a high fee coach, and I realized, fuck, that's not helping. It's like, hi, I'm very expensive. Who buys that shit? Nobody wants to buy expensive. So actually, I'm a low fee coach. Everybody's going to have an opinion of what my fees are. And I notice it's all different. I have a person with a bead of sweat running down their head for $100 a month in the past week. I have another person that just put 36 grand in her Amex without even thinking about it, sitting on my sofa because it sounded like a good deal for 24 hours of coaching. It's like, so which one's high? I don't know. So I don't even want to, I'm not seeing this affecting high ticket enrollment because I don't live in the reality where high ticket enrollment exists. So that's not just about that, that's about right now. It's the same. So everybody's going to have a different opinion. Some people are going to think coaching's worth more and that price is a lot less than it used to look a lot higher, but now it's much more important. Like my client that mentioned this to coaches, it's like, shit, that I used to think that was expensive, but now it's not because now I need it. And then there's going to be people that go the other way where coaching's like Netflix. Let me cancel that, right? So don't try to decide how high or low your fee is for other people. Let them have that decision. You focus on making a difference. I've heard a couple marketers capitalized, and I stress that because I don't think it's insignificant. We capitalize things we think is important. How important that is going to impact your experience of what coaching is and how you price things. And they say that fees are going to have to come down. Well, I would say that they're probably right in their reality because the marketers market. And if you think about the market, that's like a big group of people. And on the average, a group of people right now is thinking about spending less. So that's accurate. But I don't actually coach markets. I coach individuals. And so in a market that comes down, there's going to be somebody that pops up and suddenly wants coaching. It's a lot more money. And if I'm letting people decide what the stuff is worth, then I'm focusing on them. So if you're marketing, you might want to think about bringing prices down. But if you're creating coaching clients through who you be, and you have a small number of spaces, and that's what you do, then I think that you can keep bringing those people out of the woodwork through being a stand for that value and that power and the difference that you make, especially right now. And the last piece that I highlighted here, also, how are you positioning yourself during this time versus just a few months ago? Well, I hope that you can see that, first of all, it's probably the same because I haven't really changed. I'm the same person, but let's look more specifically in that. I don't position myself. I create who I am and I be somebody. And that might present a position, but it's just a slightly different way of looking at it. It's still relevant to me how I'm perceived by people, but that perception is the result of me being focused on who do I want to be and who am I? And then they perceive that, and that happens to be my position. But if I'm focusing on positioning, and then that's a marketing angle, it's like, how am I going to look to people? If that's my first focus, instead of who am I going to be, then I'm concerning myself with the market. So it ties into the previous thing. I'm not saying it's wrong. If you're a marketer, it's a smart thing to do. But for me as a coach, when I'm coaching, that's how I create my business too, by the way. I don't create it through marketing. I create coaching clients through coaching people. When I create a video, I'm being who I am and I'm coaching you in the video. In this, I'm coaching you. When I'm in a conversation, I'm coaching you. So I'm not positioning, I'm being. So that hasn't changed. All right. Moving on, let's see. How can I serve humanity with my gifts during this time of need while continuing to create from my joy and receive financial abundance? How can I serve humanity with my gifts during this time of need while continuing to create from my joy and receive financial abundance? So first of all, it's not a trade-off, it's both, right? And so I think you kind of get that just based on what you wrote. But the answer to how to do it is, I think the important thing is to let go of your plans for what it's going to look like. But that doesn't mean letting go of what you enjoy and receiving financial abundance. It's like, oh, what I enjoy is this, and financial abundance would be that, and I would love doing that. And I thought it was going to look like this, and maybe it's still going to look like that, or maybe it's going to look different. Let me just let go of how it looks for a second and be like, if I want to enjoy it and create financial abundance, and this is what's happening in the world, and this is what I want to do, let me take all those ingredients together and create with that. And in the simple act of letting go of the plans and allowing yourself to create with what actually is happening in the world, in the reality, will actually start to inform you creatively, and it will feed you. And guess what? It's just going to get better and bigger and more cool and more interesting. And it probably won't change that much, but it might change a little bit, and you're going to be more excited because you're not going to be trying to do it in contrast or conflict with what's happening in reality, but in service of it. But the most important switch is the willingness to let go of the plan so that the plan can evolve. So it's like, for me, it's like, okay, I coach from 9 to 11 and 12 to 2, 3 days a week, you know? And it's like, okay, well, it's 11:30 my time, and now I'm doing this. It's like everything's a little bit different right now. And suddenly I'm doing more stuff. I did an extra class for my creating school, which is where my clients live, where I teach in there. I'm doing this right now. I'm rolling with it. I'm doing things, right? But that comes from being like, okay, so one of the general ideas, right? I create so many structures that are in service of creating what I would love. And it's really important to have the structures serve me and not to flip it and be serving the structures. And so it's like, you had a plan, but that plan's to serve you. You don't need to serve it. So the circumstances have changed. You're like, roll with it, evolve it. How could I have joy and financial abundance with this and give my gifts in what's happening here? That would be fun. This person goes on to say, what is the most authentic and congruent way for me to offer my services at this time? And what services do I want to offer? Great. I think you're kind of asking the question that I would ask myself if I were you. It's like, what would I love to do? Let me be honest with myself about that. Let me not try and say that I would like to do something just because I think that it should be, or it's right, or that would be more marketable right now. What would I love to do? And what would actually serve with what's happening right now? So this is the point that I wanted to come to. I guess I'll share it here about like how this whole thing, you could meet it with like spiritual bypass, or you could actually have it grow you spiritually. There is a way of being with reality that looks like you're being spiritual and enlightened, but you're actually just ignoring something and repressing it. It's like, oh, that stuff's happening out there. And it's like, yeah, I'm just not going to watch the news. Like, it's cool. Like, I don't care. It's like, fuck, nobody's looking. I'll just watch the news a little bit. And it's like, you're not really at peace with it. Like, to me, real spiritual growth, real freedom, real power is accessed through actually looking at it and being like, fuck, people are dying. The economy's fucked up. Everything's changing. You know, everybody's going to get a vaccine and like whatever. All the conspiracy theorists are like kind of true. It's like, well, that's a bit freaky, right? And then it's like, oh, and shit, and I'm going to actually die. This is the thing too. It's like, so like, at the core of this is like the fear of death. But like fear of death has a huge impact on us when we're not willing to actually look at it. Actually look at death. How many people eat meat but don't want to see an animal get killed? Like that's this. And so actually looking straight at it and being like, fuck, this is real. And feeling the uncomfort and wanting and feeling the whole body, like in your throat, you can't breathe, and your stomach, it turns, and then your heart starts to race, and it's like you sweat and you're like, okay, instead of looking away from that and pretending it's not happening, staying with it and breathing through it and finding out that you can actually be okay right now because it's not happened yet. You're not dead yet. You're still alive right now. And there's peace on the other side of being with something. Feel it, breathe through it, be with it. That is the growth. That's where the real freedom is. The rest looks like freedom if I'm just ignoring it. And this is the practice. And I know a lot of you know so much about this. I'm just here to remind you that your capacity to do this every day is what charges you up and gives you the capacity to be that for people. You are the product. What you are selling is who you are. So you charge yourself up every day with the reminder that you're ready and willing to die. It's okay because it's going to happen. To hate it and resist it is just to fuck me up now because it's coming. And then in that peace and that freedom, that on the other side of that acknowledgement and awareness and allowing, that's where you have the strength to have a conversation with somebody who's scared because you were scared this morning and you got through it. Not because you were scared this morning and you watched the news or just distracted yourself. And so, being honest with reality, being honest with what you would love to create. And then this last piece goes into this last question with this person right now. It said, I'm asking myself the right questions of myself, and I'm fulfilling my calling in a way that is relevant to the world right now. They said, I want to make sure I'm asking the right question of myself and that I'm fulfilling my calling in a way that is relevant to the world right now. So that's good. It's like just there, it's in your language. So we want to both be honest with reality, and we want to be connected to what we would love and what's actually valuable to the world right now. And so I think that's beautiful. And I think that once we learn to go in and to ask, what is God or the universe or my spirit or my soul or my daemon, what does it want from me? What's true for me? That's a beautiful growth. But then we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater of asking other people what they want too. It's like, well, I can't listen to you. The universe is guiding me. So, well, this person out there who has a want, they are a God too. And so I live by asking and listening. And that means not just asking God and listening, but asking people and listening to them. And so actually the answers can come from everywhere. So get really good at asking specifically, what would be really useful for you right now? What would make a difference? What would be helpful for you? And then start talking about that and start serving people with that. Ask him, ask her, ask them, ask in, ask out, ask everywhere, and listen. Listen, listen, listen. And all the answers about what to do will be there. All right, moving on. How are we on time? Oh, good. We're doing good. Okay, this is an awesome one. I mean, if I had 7 hours with this one email, I'd get, whoop, there's a lot of stuff on here. Okay, I was struck by the comment you made about not reducing your prices. I had a growing personal NLP hypnotherapy coaching practice and had just increased my prices before we were ordered to stay home. So now I am taking this opportunity to grow my online business. Brilliant, love that. I already get results just as successfully online. Awesome. And I love that you created this as opportunity. And this person goes on to say, as this is the way I want to take my services anyway. Perfect, what a great thing. However, since almost no one is earning right now and the kids are all at home, many who need it must have neither the time nor the money. Perceived lack in the future since earnings are reduced, gone. A lot of great insight in this. I've been thinking about how I might serve people by offering shorter sessions to cope better with childcare, and so they would be cheaper too. I am also offering free online group meditation sessions for our local community. I'm just going to actually work through some of that stuff with you before reading the rest, and then I'll read on. So struck with a comment about not reducing your prices. So if I reduce my prices, that's like, and this is not the truth, it's a perspective. It's like, let me just slow down myself as the gear in the machine. Let me let a little bit less water through this thing. I don't care that you want to put more through. I'm not going to let as much water through this point in the system. It's like, there's a virus that's infected this point, and this flow is going to slow down. I'm deciding in advance how much you can put through. I'm just not going to get in the way. I had a growing business. I had a growing practice. I mean, like, whoa, it's only been 8 days. Are you sure that it's not growing anymore? Like, that's a reality that one is creating. Just see how the paradigm, what's it called? Pandemic. The pandemic starts, and then all of a sudden there's an idea about what was is no longer. That's an idea. I wouldn't take that idea on. I mean, there's guys building a building across the street from me. They were closed one day because the city of Santa Monica thought it would be a good idea for them to stop, and then the city of Los Angeles said construction keep going, and now they're going again. It's like, they didn't skip a beat, really. Nobody's over there saying like, oh, it's not right for us to keep going, or we should stop. They're just doing what they're doing. The trees hasn't stopped. Let's go on, because there's different reasons that people might think this. Taking the opportunity to grow the business online, love it. I mean, I think everybody can hopefully see that. This is a great opportunity if you're not doing stuff online to do more of it. Of course, we're here. But many who need it don't have the time or the money, and then goes on to say, because of a perceived lack in the future. Well, there's a way of actually being that person. When you actually write an email from a place of saying that there's people out there, I imagine, what was it? I imagine, or there's, since many who need it, most have neither the time or money. So there's an idea that's come up in the mind of the coach that there's people out there that don't have the time or the money for this. Or those people are just assuming they're not going to have it because they're perceiving that in the future they're going to need it. And so therefore it's not useful right now. So the first thing to see is that the coach is seeing a world where this lack of money exists. And that's the same thing that all coaches do when they're not feeling abundant and experiencing scarcity. It's just that now the pandemic is like contributing to that reality. So you can just as well see that not the case now as you could before. And then they're seeing the clients are going to have a perceived lack of that in the future. And that's really dangerous because that's how the virus spreads. And what I mean is the fear virus. So I'm talking to somebody who's a potential coaching client, and I'm seeing them as a person who will perceive lack coming in the future. And they might not have come on the call with that, but guess what? By the time they spend an hour with me in deep conversation about who they are, from a place of them, of thinking that they are this person, they're going to start actually seeing the world and feeling it that way. So we're going to create people as afraid or as certain. So I'm going to actually be in conversation with people as if they already are certain and as if they are safe and as if they do have the capacity and the power to create everything they want. And so the last piece I want to say about that is a perceived lack in the future. If I meet somebody with $9,000 today, and they like in 6 months, like, oh, I'm going to really need that money. I'm like, fuck, then you better join Creator Circle. Because like, if you do that here, then we're going to go up. And if you hold on to that money, like, oh, fuck, I hope like something like a new car or something else doesn't come along, because then you're going to spend it. You're going to be super fucked. So the best place you can invest that right now, don't put it in Bitcoin. Don't put it in the stock market, like invest it in you and let's do this. Because then you increase your capacity to create all the money and more that you need forever. And that's an idea, but it's one I come from. And I would recommend that you see that a person's holding on to money because they might need it in the future is the best time for them to be invested in you, because then you can help them to create more later. I mean, are you better than saving? Like, you got to be better than a piggy bank. All right. I've been thinking how I might serve people by offering shorter sessions to cope better with childcare so they would be cheaper too. Well, maybe, and that might sound like it's an altruistic thing to do, or you could do shorter sessions at the same price so that you keep money moving through the system and you can serve more people in the same amount, like if I was doing $1,000 an hour before, now it's $1,000 for 30 minutes because I need to fit more people in. Is that more right or more wrong? I don't know. I'm not going to create a story around that. And the other thing is, it would be wrong if everybody had an objective opinion about price that was accurate, and then suddenly I was just capitalizing, taking more from the market. But if I'm going to just make a shift in how I do business and who I'm willing to work with and who I'm not, that's an important thing to see too. Like, when you raise your fees, you price people out. And does that feel like bad and mean? Well, why? Because that's important to see. Not why because you shouldn't feel that way. If that feels bad and mean, and there's something that you actually love and that you care about. And so I used to have that feeling of bad about that. And I saw that, I feel bad about that because I really want to help everybody. And that's in here too. So I'll just speak to it too. I really want to help everybody. And like, I don't want to, just be in a situation where a person can't afford me that I can't help them. And so I said, well, how could I have both? How could I raise my fees and help everybody? Well, I guess I could have a lower fee option. And how could I do that, but still make some money? Well, I create a group. Look at that. I can make even more money in the same amount of time with a group of people that I'm coaching. Okay, that works. But still, that's still sometimes too expensive for people. So how could I help those people? Well, I guess I could make videos and share stuff online. So there I am coaching 3 times a week. I spend 5 minutes making a video and it goes on YouTube. And we write up stuff about it. We send emails out. And that's not like my marketing plan. I've been doing that for 10 years because it's how I can help people without spending the time on everybody, no matter what they can afford. So I have a place for everybody. I have a way to serve everybody. There's never a person in my world that I can't help somehow, in some way. That doesn't mean that I can be on the phone in a conversation with anybody all day long because I only have so much time in the day. So what is it that's having you feel bad about somebody not affording your coaching? What would you love And how else can you help them other than selling your time, especially if you need childcare and you only have so little? And I'm offering free online group meditation sessions for a community. Beautiful. So I'm doing a free session right here, right now. Like, do that. Find ways to go wide and go free. You got more time all of a sudden. Not going to the gym, not going anywhere. That's not a rule. That's not a command or even a suggestion. It's just an idea. Okay. Part of me believes that I'd be wrong not to offer a discount to my sessions at this time. Okay, I think we've kind of handled that. I'm being greedy to keep charging as before. Feels like I'm somehow being greedy to keep charging as before. Yeah, these are just like extended, more complex versions of this story, right? So it's like, just watch out for how you're creating your reality. But this baby in bathwater, there's love behind this fear. Find that love. What is it that I'm afraid of that, or that hurts because deep down what I love and care about is, that's the gold. And then actually be a stand for that and find a new way to create it that also honors what you would love, just like that other person was saying, right? Like, how do I honor what I want and that? So this is how. Be a stand for all of it. Who am I to deny anyone the help they need? Exactly. But who are you to give it to them in ways that you can't afford to? For your family's sake, for your own financial health's sake. Find a way, create a way where you can give it all, both to you and your family. That's what I would say. Okay, moving on. Another one here. I'm noticing an uptick in people posting quite paranoid thoughts and articles on social platforms. The theme might be the evils of vaccination, 5G, how we're entering a police state, and other conspiracy type themes, in my view, clearly. It concerns me that some of this comes from conscious people who have been swept up in other anxiety and are transmitting it unthinkingly. That's very virus-like behavior. Well said. What to do to best counter this trend? Okay. So I've highlighted a few things. I'm noticing an uptick in people posting quite paranoid thoughts. I highlighted that just because it's awesome that you're noticing that. That's awareness. That's a gift. It concerns me that some of this comes from conscious people. It concerns me. Why? Not why as in like, what does that matter to you? Who gives a fuck? No, why? Because if you're concerned about something, something matters to you. And seeing that through the concern, which is a mild form of anxiety or fear or worry, to what is it that I love that actually has me be afraid? What am I afraid isn't happening? What am I afraid is happening? What am I worried about? What is the love beneath the concern? And once you see that, that's really useful because then you can actually create that in the world. Well, if it concerns, then maybe let's just imagine if I'm being this person, it concerns me that people are posting that there are conscious people at the forefront and now they're posting unconscious stuff, that their consciousness is lowered and they're in a position to help people and now they're making a mess. Okay, it's like that concern. It's like, well, why does that concern me? Because personally, I'm just going to be me now. If that were me, because I'm like, coaches are at the forefront of this battle. They're the ones that are saving the world. Like that's as important. So I would love them to be conscious. So well, shit, but why don't I do a fucking webinar for an hour for free with as many as I can reach where I talk about this and help them to see that so they can be that. So that's why we want to know why it concerns you, not because it shouldn't, but because something matters to you. And once you can see that, you can actually lead with it and create with it. So some of this comes from conscious people in air quotes, single quotes. And so what I wrote there is, when are they conscious? Because this idea that a person is something and they should be at all times in the future and the past, and they always are, and that's an idea that's dangerous because on the outside, if you see somebody not being that, you create judgment in yourself and you live inside that judgment. That's toxic for you, right? So if I don't want to go around being like, somebody said they were something and they're not being it, it's like I have to suffer the consequence of another person's incontinuity. I don't want that. I don't want to live like that. And so the idea when conscious is really a question to point out that like, okay, so a person was conscious and then this hit and now they're not. And so there's an opportunity for you to create what you would love. Don't judge them. Don't get freaked out. Just create that. And the other reason you want to see that, living in this idea that conscious now means conscious always, is that outward projection is also a way of judging the self. And so I'm not being conscious all the time. That's an unconscious way of judging yourself for not being conscious enough. So I don't want to live inside a reality where I have to be conscious all the time. Last night, my son, 4 years old, running around. My wife's in bed. I'm trying to go to bed. He's screaming, throwing shit. I'm like, get in bed, get in bed. She's like, get in bed. I pick him up by his clothes and I throw him down the pillow and he starts crying. I'm like, fuck. And I walk out of the room and I'm like angry at him, angry at me to do that. I was unconscious. Like, oh, fuck, I can't do my webinar tomorrow. I thought I was a conscious coach. I'm just an asshole dad. No, it's like, I did that because I have a body that's got neurological memories in it and it does this. It's like, you're not obeying me. I'm not in control. I'm not getting my sleep. I'm not safe. I'm going to get low immunity. I'm going to get the virus. You got to get in bed. Fuck. It just happened. It's okay. I'm just being here, conscious in one moment, not conscious in another, trying to help people. It's all good. Don't judge yourself. Don't worry about them. And don't worry about them doesn't mean walk away. That means see what you care about and create it. So what do we do to counter this trend? Beautiful. I love that you're going there anyway. It's a great thing. I'm being a little bit hard on you just to beef this up to make it more valuable. Yes, what do you do to counter this trend? Can we just change one word from do to be? Who do I be to counter this trend? You be that person that is concerned, but not through being concerned. What are you concerned about? I'm concerned that people are not conscious. And so I be conscious with people and I be loving with people. I just be that. I've never found a greater way to make a difference by being something for somebody, as a dad, as a husband, in the world, as a coach. So be that. And if you see it happening on social media, be the opposite on social media and invite those people on social media into conversation where you lovingly help them to see that it's okay that that's happening and maybe there's another way. They're not wrong. They're just being the same way that you are and the times you beat yourself up for it. And me too. All right, moving on. So, all right. Oh my goodness, there's lots of these, huh? Let's just keep going. Let's roll with it. I'm glad you guys are happy. I see some messages coming in that you're having fun, that you're enjoying this. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Okay. This is about a client who is a nurse and he is stuck in some fears and concerns regarding the pandemic. He's treating patients without great protective gear. He is in judgment of those complaining about being at home. And those not heeding the warnings. Yes, he is envious of those who are at homes with their loved ones, who are safe or secure, navigating the pandemic peacefully and powerfully. He is in fear of contracting the virus himself and dying. He shares about how unsupportive his relationship is, how his boss is making poor decisions, how he doesn't want to be doing what he's doing, and how he has little time for other passions now, and more. And this coach says, I really want to help him. The last session wasn't very helpful, well, I don't think at least, and I'd love to make a difference, show up more powerfully and lovingly for him. Okay, so the first thing that I would say, actually even above this, yes, he is stuck in these regarding the pandemic. I don't know if that was my language or not, because I asked a question actually. So let's just assume it's not. Let's just say that this is the coach's language, that they are stuck in this. So I wouldn't see it that way. Don't see stuckness for your clients ever, right? Because guess what shows up when you see your clients is stuck? It's like, let me turn my client into a jar of peanut butter I can't open, and let's work on that. No, you want to see them as super easy to change with. Super open, super able to move into new realities. See them that way. Give them the benefit of the doubt. And so maybe that was maybe I used that word, but let's just, either way, it's not useful to see our clients as stuck. Even if they tell us, oh yeah, that's what you think. Watch this. Okay, he is treating patients without great protective care. So how that becomes a problem, I mean, this is a good one too, because it's like, wait, are you saying that like people with protective gear shouldn't be afraid, or that people shouldn't have protective gear? No, I'm saying that their frustration, that the suffering they have of treating people without protective gear is created by them. There's pain and suffering, right? Like there's like, you cut yourself, ow, there's pain, and there's a suffering is what you do with the mind. Or when in Costa Rica, we talked about the bug, big bugs, bug, and there's being bugged by the bug, which is like, oh, and then there's being bugged by being bugged by bugs, which is like, there's no bugs right now, but I'm just so annoyed by bugs. I'm living in the buggedness. So there's multiple layers of experience. There's the immediate, and then there's the lived in experience. And you're in a coaching session, and you're with your coach, you're not at the hospital without the protective gear, and you're experiencing the suffering. That's like being bugged by bugs when you're not even in Costa Rica. And so this is just from, this came up because there's people here that were on my retreat recently, and I'm just thinking about you and I love you. So treating patients without protective gear. So how do you create that suffering? I think one of the ways you do is you actually experience, and I see this in a lot of this language here, it as something that you have no choice. I have to be in this environment treating people without protective gear, and I have no choice. I'm subjected to this. I'm at effect to the world. There's not enough masks, and here I am, and I don't have any choice, and that sucks. Or you could say, I am actually an autonomous individual, and there's a job that I've had and that I could continue working in, and there's no protective gear, and it could put me at risk, and I could either choose to go into that environment, which is less than I would love it to be, or I can choose not to and then deal with the consequences of that. It's a place where I have choice. And if I'm connected with that choice, suddenly the whole experience is different. I might want protective gear, but I'm not, and I might have the pain of the moment by moment worry, like somebody touches me and I don't have gear and I have that pulse of fear. That's one thing. But hey, I feel that pulse of fear and that concern about the contraction of the virus, and I breathe through and I remember I've chosen to be here, and all of a sudden there's peace again. You know, the fear comes and the fear goes. The suffering is because I feel that I don't have choice. I'm not in power. I'm not creating. Creating gives you power of freedom and peace because you remember that you're an agent in this act. You're actually part of the dance. You're dancing too. Judgment of those complaining about being at home. So we're talking about complaining about complaining. Complaint's a judgment. Judging about judging, complaining about complaining. So it'd be useful for this person to see that they're complaining about people who are complaining about things. And when you can see that, your first place the person might go is, well, yeah, but that's not reasonable to complain about. And this is reasonable to complain about. But it's like, if you can really look at it, complaining about complaining is no better than complaining, right? You can help a person to see that. You guys know how to do that. I call it meta complaining or meta judgment. So then what? Okay, so what do you do in the face of a complainer? Well, you be the antidote by you being somebody who, number one, is an example of not complaining. But you also can be somebody who's uncomplainable. Now, how do you even say that? Like, you can't complain to me if I don't experience the complaint as a complaint. So like, you can't spam me because I don't experience spam as spam. You can't scam me because I'm unscammable, because you can't take from me because I'll just give it to you. So you can't complain to me because I'm going to see that you're suffering and that you're not accessing your power to create. So anytime you try to complain to me, I'm actually going to see an opportunity to help you. It's like you're opening a door to your soul. You're like, you think you're complaining, and I'm like, you're letting me in. So you can actually create a way of seeing people where complaining doesn't occur, and you can actually be the opposite of complaining yourself. And there's an infinite number of ideas. Those are just a couple ways of meeting that. Envious of those who are at home with their loved ones, safe and secure. Why would you do that to yourself, Era? Why would you do envy? Envy is just a way of, and jealousy, it's a way of creating a present relationship to an idea of something that's happening out there. I think you know how to meet that. Just don't think, here's the thing. A lot of this stuff, I know this, coach. Easy to handle, easy to handle. This is probably the most important coaching. All this stuff, no problem for you. Except when you believe that the pandemic means this is different. Right? All of a sudden, like, oh, envy, oh, you know, judging people who complain, oh, I don't know how to do that. Yeah, you do. You just got to let go of the idea that, number one, they're stuck, and that the circumstances of a pandemic make this any different. It only makes a difference if you buy into it. Fear of contracting the virus and dying sounds like a conversation about the reality of death would be useful. Like, I don't know any way to help people with death better than actually looking at it. Like, so you're going to die. Okay. What do you need to do to prepare for that? Maybe there's some things, maybe there's not, but actually looking at it and being able to stand in that space with people is really helpful. I have clients who, they could be called death coaches. They actually are hired by people when they're dying. And we will work together until the end of your coaching agreement or until you die. And that's how they work. And it's like, okay, let me just be with this person. That's just as much of a gift. There's a lot of life that can come through being present with death. And if that's hard for you to do, then go there with you first. I like to sit and close my eyes sometimes, or I do it laying in bed. I put my hands by my side or on my chest, the position I'll be in when I'm in my coffin. I just imagine I'm in my coffin looking up at everybody that would come to my funeral. I'd probably be cremated. but that happens after anyway. Yeah. So anyway, that's the way I look at it. It's like, just be there with that. And like, oh, that hurts. That's sad. And I'm still breathing and I'm okay. So I died and now I'm alive. So just be with it over and over and over again. How unsupportive the relationship is created. Check out my video series, my videos on how I create my wife. Like, there's going to be some external reality to unsupportiveness, but most of it's going to be perceived and then encouraged and generated. Bosses making poor decision created. The way the person sees it and the way they see them, and they encourage that, and then they get more of that. Boss wouldn't make such poor decisions if that person wasn't creating that. Doesn't want to be doing what they're doing. It's another version of I'm doing what I have to, not what I want to. That can change really quickly on the inside by choosing to do this thing that right now you're experiencing you have to do. And that's actually a way to move out of it in an external world. If I, like, when I started my coaching business, I was also doing some web development part-time. And if I had the idea that, oh, I have to do that now, but I want to be doing this, that would have sucked. But it's like, I want to do this right now to make the money to support me so I can continue doing this that I also want. Why do I want to experience everything that I'm doing as if I want to do it? Because then I get to live in the joy of doing what I want to do. And so I both want to not do stuff I don't want to do and want to do the stuff I don't want to do. And it's not one that's right or the other, but I want to create the experience of loving everything I do, either through not doing things I don't love and or through loving things that I'm doing, right? And it's like, well, which one is it? It's both. And how do I know which one? Just do both. Just dance with it. Try both. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I just drew this thing for a person today in a call. It's like, you know, the Taoist symbol is two half moons, black on one side, white on the other. It's this. It's like the integration, the folding into. It's like you actually got to do both at the same time. It's not like you switch from one to the other. And so how do you move from switching from one to the other into integration? Well, you switch in smaller and smaller bits, moment by moment. That's a deep and long conversation, but we don't have time for it right now. So here we go. Okay, I really want to help this person. The last session wasn't very helpful, or I don't think, at least I'd love to make a difference to show up more powerfully and lovingly for him. Cool. First of all, that's beautiful that you want to make a difference, that you'd love to make a difference. And so this is for everybody and for everything right now. I talked about I am that I live by asking and listening, AKA through prayer. And everybody, that God, spirit, insight, intuition, another person, same. And so how do you know, how can you show up lovingly and powerfully and really make a difference for people right now? Isn't that a great question? Like, how can I make the most difference for people right now? Wouldn't we love to know that? Well, guess what? There's those people that we're going to make a difference for are alive and they can talk. So let's ask them. What would make a real difference for you right now in the middle of this pandemic in our coaching that you've signed up for before the pandemic? Or now we were talking about doing this work and now suddenly there's a pandemic. What would make a real difference for you right now with the world and how it's changed? What would be really helpful? Well, to be honest, really helpful would be to just have that money that I was going to invest in coaching. Oh, I see. Well, maybe you should do that. Or maybe we can work together and help you to access the ways to make more money and create more resources and more resourcefulness. And don't take this on as a script and a way of trying to hoodwink somebody. I've had some people that I've said the best thing I agree would be to stop and to turn off their payments. So there's not a rule here. There's just a possibility to come from and be with a person and see what you feel in your heart is possible for them and you, if you were to be together to create. Now, there's another person I talked to today where I had that piggy bank type conversation. It's like, there's nowhere better you could put this money. What we will do in the next 6 months is so much better than what that money will do anywhere else. And so it depends on who I'm with. I know who I am, but what's occurring in front of me and what's going on in their world. I'm just being honest. Okay. We're going to have to go over. I wanted to do this in an hour, but I'm going to share on this. Let's see, this last one. And then I had another couple of questions here. I'll email you back, but it wasn't relevant to the virus. So I'm not going to speak about it here, but I will email you back. I won't say your name, but you'll know because you don't hear from me right now on the call. So this other one is, should we be offering coaching specifically for the current situation free of charge, or asking for a contribution, or charging a reduced fee? I've talked about the ideas in there enough already on here, but the thing I circled is the word should. So there are no shoulds ever that are useful. That's an idea. It's one I live from, and especially right now. You know, if you're looking for a should, you're looking for something else to tether to. Where's the safe harbor? What can I hold on to? What's the right path? Doesn't exist. Who are you? Be that. We all want to help, but our time is our time, nor do we want to devalue it by what we do. So we don't want to devalue what we do by lowering our fees, essentially. But neither do we want people to miss out because they can't afford it. So I handled not missing out because they can't afford it. Find a way to help everybody that doesn't cost time that you don't have or resources you don't have. But this is an important point here. We don't want to devalue what we do by lowering our fees. So doing something for free doesn't mean that you're less valuable unless you think that means you're less valuable. I said this to a client once. Are you here? I'm not going to say your name, but I just want to see. Just so I can connect with the energy of it. I don't know. No, you're not here. Anyway, you'll watch the replay. I was like, you could think about it as first I was a Ferrari, but now I lower my fees and now I'm a Prius. Or you could be like, I'm a Ferrari and it costs this much, but there's a pandemic, so I'm gonna let you ride in the Ferrari for free. But you're gonna get it's a Ferrari. And you're getting it for free, and that's going to be fucking awesome. So there's a big difference between devaluing yourself and changing your fees. You can lower your fees and you can keep your value on how you see yourself and who you be for a person. And you can not just leave that up to them to understand, you can make sure you articulate it. The client I mentioned who just paid with her Amex for my coaching, what was I just saying? Fuck. First, Ferrari, huh? I can't remember the point.
You get to ride in the Ferrari for free, aren't you?
Yeah.
So lucky.
Oh yeah, no, that was it, right? So this person was who signed up for my paid coaching was the result of a little bit of pro bono coaching that I did in a kind of random situation that happened in my life, my personal life. Them and their business partner, I did some pro bono coaching. But at the beginning, it was like, if I'm going to do this for you, you have to, number one, understand I don't usually do this for people. And if you do it, it's important to me that you show up the same way that my clients that pay $3,000 for this 2 hours are showing up. And that if we say we're going to do something, we do it, and that we're not late, and we count every minute, and we So I'm telling you, it's not like it's free and then we bring the value down. It's a Ferrari and you're getting in. And they showed up fucking powerfully for the coaching and the work in between. And then, as a result, completely out of left field, I never even thought it was going to happen. Can I hire you? It's like, good, here we go. And now I'm getting paid. But if I had brought my value down, it's like, well, can I pay you for some Prius? Or maybe, but probably not even that. Probably wouldn't even show up for the sessions. So do not devalue yourself. And that doesn't mean don't lower your fees. Okay. That's everything that I had planned. And it took me twice as long as I'd planned. But I have a call in 28 minutes and with a client. And so I want to eat before that. So I'm going to take like 18 minutes to be with you guys if you have questions. Let me take, I don't know, like throw a chat in or something if you can't take yourself off mute. But if you have a question, I'd love to answer it. Reno, go for it. Good to see you.
Hey, JP. So this is kind of a vulnerable one for me. And I actually noticed, like, I feel myself wanting to cry right now as I bring it up. I had a conversation with my mom yesterday, last night, in fact. And I'm kind of worried about her. She's by herself right now, and I've been really encouraging her to lean into digital community and practice self-care. And my concern is that, you know, with her being unemployed and her immunity being compromised, and her also being addicted to drugs, there's a lot there. And last night we had a conversation and I explained to her, and it didn't feel like a story when I said it, but I explained to her that at the time we were speaking, I didn't feel like I was in the space to take on where she was at.
Mm.
felt like it just felt really heavy. And I guess I'm having trouble navigating that relationship right now because I want to be loving and I want to be supportive, and I feel like I am, and at the same time it feels like a really massive sort of burden to, and maybe there's a story in there.
Yeah, I'm hearing that like there's a way that you should be being with your mom that you're not
Right.
being, and that's
No,
not okay.
yeah. And I guess what I keep saying is, in this moment, I can't be for you what you need from me.
Mm.
What I can offer you is to point you in this direction over here. There's a community of people that struggle with the same thing you do, that are there to support one another. Can you lean on that right now?
Mm-hmm.
I can't be this for you right now.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm having a tough time with that in some ways, because there's a guilt there, like I'm her son and so I should be showing up for her.
Sure.
If she needs me in whatever way she needs me, and that's a lot, you know.
Yeah,
and
it's just like,
mix, and it makes things a little trickier as well.
so I'll just share a couple of perspectives that have helped me in these kind of situations and my clients. And that's, you know, in that same way, it's like, I'm going to die. It's also like, I can't save everyone. Actually, I can't save anyone. Ultimately, I can't save anyone. When it comes down to it, they're all going to die too. They're going to die and they're going to have pain, and they're probably going to suffer because nobody's got the perfect mind. Right. And so, and it's actually through, in a similar way, it's like accepting our own death. It's like accepting that we can't save others from their death and from their suffering. Mm-hmm. That acceptance and that allowing is what I find gives me the access to loving them as fully as I have the resource to in the time to in that moment. A lot of the struggle with not being able to be there for a person is because of the way the mind is saying that's not enough and I should do more. I should be able to do it all. And it's like, well, I can't save anyone, actually. This is going to happen to all of us. And it's going to hurt. Then I can breathe and actually just be with them in their suffering. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Reno.
Thank you.
Who else has a question? Emmerich, yeah.
Yeah, man. Hey, JP, thanks again, man. Always appreciate this.
Yeah.
There's something I'm curious about. It's sort of a subtlety. So when meeting one-on-one with someone, how do you allow yourself to come into conversation with them? It's not a how question, actually. It's the subtlety of not buying into other people's stories or buying into the drama. It's the same as with anything, always. But how do you navigate that space, or how are you navigating that space when somebody starts, they kind of want to pull you into the worries or the space, and you already see through it. So how do you meet them without being so like confrontational? It's like,
well, what's striking me right now as you say that, I'm just like imagining that experience, and I love them for wanting to pull me in.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you're in the water and somebody's drowning and they're trying to pull you down. They're not trying to really pull you down. They're trying to pull themselves up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, how am I experiencing what's happening in that moment? And so that's the idea. They're trying to pull you in is a toxic idea.
Sure.
I'm creating, well, I'm not saying that to you as in like, I knew that and I'm trying to teach you.
Yeah.
I'm actually creating that awareness for myself for the first time and sharing it with you. It's like, wow. The idea of pulling a person in is a toxic idea. It would be really useful for me to not see that in the world anymore. Mm-hmm. Nobody tries to pull me in ever. People try to pull themselves up. And the difference in those two realities is one makes me feel like anxious and how am I going to deal with that? And the other one's like, oh my God, it breaks open my heart. And it has me want to put my hand out and help them. And I don't have to, there's no fight. It turns from a fight to a dance.
It's such a subtle thing that I find, for me at least, to allow myself to meet someone where they're at as opposed to trying to meet them where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I have to come somewhere into the muck of their existence, which I do naturally. This is part of the process of what we do.
Yes.
But then to also be able to come out of that and bring them. It's a beautiful metaphor to reach down and pull them out of the water.
Yeah,
But
and so the idea but what I'm also hearing is I have to go into the muck has a little bit of like, I have to lose connection to the place that I find my grounding in and that I create. And so that's the idea that we have to be in one place or the other. But like
Sure.
one of the powerful, really the most powerful and liberating things is to play the game of, like, if somebody's complaining, it's like, yeah, man, oh, man, I can see that. Wow, yeah, this guy, my gym the other day, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like complaining about stuff with them, their people, and I'm complaining about the people in my life with them, and it's like, yeah, we're on the same side, but all the while I know that I'm doing that as a gift of a bridge to a new way. And then I realized that I was complaining about him, and I just saw that another way of thinking about it is this.
Yeah.
And I'm not like fucking with them and like pretending. I'm actually taking them on the same journey that I go on. Just because I can have a position where I'm not in shit doesn't mean that this morning I wasn't, or last night I wasn't, and I didn't walk myself out.
Yep.
So go to your own version of it, be real, and then walk out with them together. So
Yeah.
you're not losing yourself in the muck. You're going to your muck with them and their muck, but remembering that the muck isn't all of it.
It's not even real.
Not
That's
even
the
real.
that's the funny thing about it.
Yeah.
You tell me you're gonna die and I laugh, and I don't mean to, but it's
Yeah.
just you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing. I really always appreciate all this work that
Awesome.
you're doing. It's been
You're so
beautiful.
welcome, Emmerich. Thank you. Okay, let's take another question, please. I know there's at least two people who are being just like letting other people have space, but definitely have questions. So just go for it.
Can I ask a question?
You weren't one of them, but where are you?
Um,
I guess it would be hard for you to tell me where you are because you don't know where you are on my screen. Let me just scroll around and see if I can find you.
I'm at the end.
Oh, there you
Helen.
are. Hey, Helen.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to ask. I kind of did one coaching session by accident, and people said, "Oh, you're brilliant," type of thing, and I'm thinking that, okay, I'm going to give it a go and get started. Any sort of tips on how to start, where to start?
Yeah. So, and I'm so glad I get to be the person to answer this question before you go ask most other coaches in the world. And mine would be to not fall for the idea that coaching is a thing that exists and is defined and that there's a right way or wrong way to do it. To actually just go help people with your conversation or whatever it is that you do in whatever way feels fun and enjoyable and meaningful for you, and follow your own interest and passion and curiosity, and just watch how that makes a difference for people and move more in that direction. Don't let anybody else tell you this is what coaching is or what coaching isn't. That's just their world. So so the next thing I would say is just start doing it and have fun with it. And the only thing that in the beginning that differentiates coaching from not coaching is telling somebody that's a coaching conversation. It's going to look a lot like what you've always done in your life. And as you create that distinction by being, this is a scheduled time where we're having a coaching conversation, not just having a chat, over time, that space will become more distinct for you and it will become more valuable to people. But you have to begin that journey by actually just sectioning off part of what you've always done is now this thing you call coaching. And I would also get one of my best friend's books, The Prosperous Coach by Rich Litvin and Steve Chandler, who I don't know as well, but Rich is a good friend of mine, and read it.
I have it.
Okay, here we go. Knock that one off. Don't listen to Rich about what coaching is either, or me.
Lovely. Thanks,
Or Steve.
JP.
All right, thank you, Helen. Who else? Mikkel.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Could you talk a little bit about the distinction between always being a coach and asking permission to coach someone?
Okay, so ABC Always Be Coaching is just like everything that I do is coaching, whether I'm talking to myself or unfortunately talking to my wife. She doesn't really like it. Working on that. Always be coaching, and then like little asterisks, except when talking to your wife. And and asking permission. So for me, asking permission comes from the idea that it's not safe to do this.
Right.
That's not what permission seeking necessarily is, but most people think about asking permission as a way to safety for themselves.
Right.
And that kind of asking for permission is toxic. And anytime you do it, it entrenches scarcity, fear, worry, insecurity. And so I would rather see somebody just go like a steamroller without asking for permission than to ask permission from fear of themselves not being safe and actually deepen that fear. Now, on the flip side of that, if you can get into the deeper part of it, which is like, why am I asking for permission? Then you can actually go into, did we talk about I think this was in the coaching, what we did last week, but like, maybe you were there. Were you there for the last call? Where we talked about, okay. Yeah, we talked about like, how do I bring intensity to the
Yes,
conversation?
the container. Yeah.
You create a stronger container that can hold more intensity, not bring the intensity down. So how do you create a stronger container? You bring more love. And one way to be more loving and caring is to be more sensitive to how people are feeling and where they're at. Now, if you ask permission from that place, that's different. If you ask permission because you're caring and concerned with a person and where they're at, because you care for them, then that is not permission seeking that's going to create scarcity. That actually entrenches concern and compassion and empathy for the person.
Yeah.
So it's not about whether you're asking or not, it's about why you're asking. But most of the time, just stop until you can actually feel a concern for another person.
Right.
Thanks, Mikkel. Great question.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's take another question. Hey, Brandon, good to see you. I didn't see you before.
I have another question.
Okay, Reno.
You might have spoken to this, but how are you pivoting in your life and your business currently? What are you noticing is like changing and evolving for you internally and externally, I guess? Yeah,
thanks for asking. It's funny because I love that word pivot and I always use it in so many places, but I haven't been able to connect with it in this time. And I think it's probably just for myself, actually. I've been using it with others, like pivot this, do that. But I think for myself, I haven't pivoted at all because I think I said, maybe it was in this call. Oh no, it was an earlier call this morning, but I posted on Facebook last week. I feel like I've been selling hand sanitizer for 10 years. It's like, fuck, I have been helping people to create, despite circumstances and in the face of inevitable uncertainty, to create everything they want, no matter what's happening out there. And now suddenly everybody's like, whoa, the world's causing my experience. I'm like, fuck, well, I'm the guy to talk to then. So there's no pivot for me. There's actually, it's like, hello, like I'm here, I've been waiting. So, but lots of people are pivoting. And so I don't know if there's a different question after I give that answer, but pivot's a good thing. I just haven't seen a need for it myself. The only thing that pivoted was actually, thank you for being here, Mikkel. I have sold people came and paid for an event to be at my house. And so I had to pivot that. And so great, now I get to share. How cool. Actually, this is a major pivot. This was before the government even locked it down, but I could see it coming and I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I was stressed and worried about it because I had this financial commitment from people who are existing clients and new clients. It's like their money was here and they were coming. I didn't want to cancel it. And so I went in, it's like, what really worries me is that they're not going to get value. They're going to be disappointed. I want them to have value. And so why is that worrying me? Because beneath that is something I would love. I'd love them to have value and have it now, not have to postpone it. I'd also love them to not be in the house because my wife's 6 months pregnant and that could bring the virus in. I want them to be impacted now. And I want them to be able to be in person with me. And okay, how can I do this? Well, I don't want to be on the phone all day for 3 full days. So what am I going to do? It's like, still want to spend time with them. How am I going to get, what would I love? I'd love to spend just as much time with them. I'd love it to not be all at once. What would I love? I'd love it to be spread out. I'd love them to be here and I'd love to do it now. I can't have both, but I want both. Okay, well, here we go. Here's the email or conversation. On the weekend, we're supposed to be here. We're going to be together for 2 2-hour calls. instead of being together for 8 hours in person. And then guess what? Every Wednesday for the next week, you are in a private coaching slot, and I'm going to coach you over the next 4 weeks over a period of time. So instead of it being just a weekend, now it's a weekend plus a whole month. April's got 5 Wednesdays in it. And guess what? I'm going to do this event in person after this pandemic at some point. Whenever I do it, you've got a free seat on that as well. And guess what? If you want to do my creator circle, you've got a discount because of their commitment to this. And so I've given more than I probably would have given outside of this because I took the hurt, worry, fear, concern that was active because of what was happening in the pandemic, and I found the love beneath it, and I took it forward and I created with it. So the essence of how to pivot is take what are you afraid of and what is not working out that frustrates you or bothers you, what matters to you beneath that, bring it up forward and create with that and give that in the world. It's just going to look a little bit different, but it's going to be so much more fun and so much more exciting because it's actually connected to what's actually happening. You're dancing with what's actually real in the world instead of some idea of what was supposed to be. All right, Reno. Hey guys, thank you very, very much. I'm going to go and eat some lunch. I love you so much for being here. I'll be sending you the replay. Please share the replay with every single coach in the world that you know and ask them to do the same. If you're watching this replay, please do the same. Share it, share it, share it. If you would like to be supported by me in this on an ongoing basis, my next Creator Circle starts on the 9th of April. It's going to be a year of this, creating through conversation. Actually, not this. We're going to be in actual dialogue. Anyway, you can check it out on my website, jpmorganjr.com. Follow my YouTube and my Instagram and my Facebook. I post 3 new videos every week. I send short emails out summarizing them. I love you guys very much. All stay healthy and well. Talk to you soon. I'm going to take you all off mute so we can do a big collective. Blah. Bye-bye.
Hey,
All right.
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah.
Brandon.